For anybody who is moving because they're really trying to, get away from a toxic family, or they're trying to get away from pain and wherever it is that they're currently living, I want you to understand that moving doesn't solve all your problems. You still should be going to therapy. If you're not already going, you should still be journaling. You should still be working on yourself and being honest with yourself. Just because you move doesn't mean that your problems are going to stay where you left. That's not true. You're going to bring your problems with you wherever you go until you decide that it's finally time to release them from your spirit. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges, but what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So, I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about moving away from where you're from. I'm going to be moving soon, as I mentioned, and I'm going to finally announce where I'm going to grad school, and I'm really excited to talk about this. It's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to move for forever. So, let's get started. All right, y'all. I hope y'all like white noise because I have to have this fan on. I am so sorry if it's like too loud in the background. When I edit this, hopefully you won't hear it as badly, but I'm in the process of moving, and so I only have one AC left, and this is the one in my room, and I might have to record a couple of episodes in there because it is so hot. It's 88 degrees today when I'm filming this. It's 80 degrees in my apartment, according to the thermostat, so I'm sorry. We're just gonna have to rock with the fan. And if you see me like sweating and stuff, hey, that's the realness of it. But moving on to our weekly update. All right, so how's your week going? What's new in your week? What's going on in your life? Let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, feel free to comment on the social media platforms. Let me know how your week is going. I really want to interact with some of y'all and just hear about your lives. This week, I've really been working on moving. As you guys know, I talked a little bit about it. I'm going to be moving out of the state of Massachusetts pretty soon, and I'm really excited about that. And so I am moving into a fully furnished apartment in the next state that I'm going to. And it's a bit tricky because I have a fully furnished apartment here, and so I have to get rid of pretty much everything. And I'm driving to the new state, so whatever fits in my car is what I'm taking with me. I'm not bringing a truck. I'm not paying anybody to move like my stuff. I don't know. We're not doing all of that. And I'm moving into a studio apartment, which is very different for me because the apartment I live in now is a 2-bedroom apartment. I lived here alone for the first year, and then I had a roommate the second year, but I still occupied a majority of the space. So it's very small, and at first I wasn't the biggest fan about it, but I'm like really excited about it because I get to get rid of some shit that I don't need to keep, and it'll just allow me to try something new, try something I would have never thought about for even a moment. So I'm really excited about that. Something else that I've been doing a lot this week and spending a lot of time alone and getting ready to take some photos to announce where I'm going to grad school. And I'm really excited about that. For those of you who don't know, I'm a first-generation college graduate. I graduated from undergrad at Springfield College with a bachelor's degree in sociology, and I went through a very rough time with my undergraduate experience because I got kicked out of my home because I wanted to go to school. Then I was in school during COVID. So COVID and lockdown happened. I was homeless for some time. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I didn't really get to celebrate the way I wish I would have, especially with money coming into play. It was just very hard to celebrate in the ways that I wanted to, in the ways that I wish I would have. And so I'm really trying to do all the things that I wish I could have done the first time around, this second time around, including taking pictures to announce where I'm going to. I want to throw a going away party to say goodbye to all the people that I really care about because I am moving pretty far. And I just want to enjoy the experience and do the things that I didn't get the chance to do the first time around. All right. before I tell you guys where I'm going to school, let me just quickly tell you where I'm at now. So I do live in the state of Massachusetts now. I'm originally from Connecticut, which is literally the next state over, 30 minutes from where I currently live. So it wasn't a big move. It wasn't a big deal. I came here for school and just stayed here after school finished. Not really by choice, more so because I had to. And so I worked in the school districts around here, just really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so I am officially enrolled and I've been accepted to Georgetown University, and I'm super, super excited. I'm going to be moving to Washington, D.C. in about a month's time, and I don't even have any words. I feel like all I can really say now is that I'm excited. I had talked about this in a previous episode. I had applied back in April, and it was just because the opportunity had presented itself. I was going to have to figure out what I wanted to do next with my job because things just weren't working at the job that I had previously. And so the opportunity presented itself. I went to a virtual webinar for Georgetown to figure out, is this a school that I want to go to? I knew that the next school that I was going to had to be a really, really good school. I didn't want to go just some regular school, no shade, but I did that for undergrad. I didn't want to do that again, and not for nothing. Like, I am so smart, and I did so well in my undergraduate experience. I graduated a semester early despite all my obstacles and all that stuff that I went through, and I felt like I needed to, step it up and really go for an experience that I wanted. I either wanted to go to an Ivy League school or just a really prestigious school. And on top of that, I wanted a school that was offering what I wanted to go to school for. So I'm going to be going to Georgetown to get a master's in journalism, and I'm really excited about that. I took a introductory class to podcasting my last semester at Springfield College and fell in love with it. And that's kind of where the idea of content creation for me came into play, and I could do that for a career. So I knew that was something that I wanted to study, so that automatically eliminated a lot of schools because a lot of schools don't have such a progressive program, and the master's in journalism will allow me to learn how to tell stories in audio form, video form, photography, all of these different ways, and I'm really excited. I loved the webinar, and I really like the program that they have, so I am super, super excited to go. I didn't really put a lot of thought into my application. It was more so I put it out there and we'll see what happens. And it was also a ticket for me to finally leave. I hated growing up in Connecticut. It was never it's nothing fun for somebody to do my age where I grew up. I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, and so there wasn't really anything fun to do. And it's diverse, yeah, but aside from that, I just felt like I couldn't really grow, and I was just kind of I knew I was never going to stay there long term. And for college, because I was a first generation college student, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go, and I knew that going far wasn't really an option because that costs more money. And if I needed to come home, I would have to pay money to come home, where I can get on a train from Massachusetts to Connecticut for $5, and I'm literally back in Hartford, Connecticut, and the train station is walking distance from wherever I need to go. So it ended up working out undergrad, but I knew I didn't want to stay here long term. And after graduating from college, I really struggled with feeling like I got the wrong degree. And I feel like a lot of people who go to college struggle with that. And I don't know if that's a first generation thing. I don't know if that's just a college graduate thing. I don't know what that is. But I know that there's a lot of people who either don't use their degree at all, or they just feel like they majored in the wrong thing. And I honestly can see why. I mean, you're 18 years old when you go into college, if you're going right out of high school, and you have to pick what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I went in with the assumption of being a lawyer, and it wasn't until I worked at a law firm and realized that I fucking hated that, and I didn't want to sit at a desk all day. I didn't want to have a traditional job. I'm too creative for a traditional job, and so it left me wondering, what am I going to do next? And it took a long time for me to get to the point where it's I know what I want to do. I know I don't want to have a traditional job where I sit at a desk all day in a cubicle. That's not for me. I've done internships like that, and I've hated them. I've hated them, and hate is a strong word, but I'm sorry. I have to use it for this. I'm not a traditional girly when it comes to work and stuff like that. I'm just not a fan. And so I'm just really excited about this opportunity because it'll allow me to take the path that I want to take and to do something that I really want to do. Taking that intro to podcast class my last semester really showed me something that I didn't even know was possible. I felt like people who were on the radio or like did podcasting were like these big people, and it took all this equipment and all this time. And you just had to be like, up there, and you had to have the connects to really do that type of stuff. I didn't realize literally anybody with a phone and a microphone and access to the internet can make a podcast. And so starting this one and trying it out and seeing if this is something that I could actually do for the rest of my life really opened my eyes and made me see like, this is what I want to do. I want to go to school for this. I want to figure out how I could do this on a bigger scale. I want to figure out how I could do this for even a radio station, and just figuring out how can I make this my career. This is something that I'm very passionate about, and I know I struggle with these feelings of like, well, because I'm not consistent, like how am I supposed to make this a career? And it's not because I don't want to, it's not because I don't like it. I love it. I think honestly, it's just figuring out how to have a balance in my life, working full time, trying to do this podcast. I also had a part-time job. It was hard. It was a lot of work, and I was definitely struggling with some mental and emotional things as well. So trying to balance all of that and the editing and learning how to monetize this podcast and learning how to put it on different platforms, and then you have to go and advertise your podcast on social media platforms, and it's just me. It's not like I have a whole host of people who are helping me or anything like that. It's really just me, and not having that time and not having that balance burnt me out very quickly with this podcast, which is why I'm really excited to get ahead of it in the summertime, because I'm kind of scared about what is going to happen to this podcast when I go to school. I mean, I haven't been to school in almost 3 years. I graduated December of 2021. And so I'm a little nervous because I've never worked a full-time job and gone to school and tried to pursue something that I'm passionate about, something that I'm interested in to eventually work for myself. So I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to go to school. I'm excited that God has blessed me with this opportunity to have the summer off so that I can really focus on the podcast, record in advance, so that when I get to school, hopefully it shouldn't be too hard to balance. All right, let's talk about my reaction to finding out that I got into grad school. I did talk about this in an episode already, but not as in depth because I kept the name of the school out of the episode so that I can save some time before I decided to announce it. I really wanted to let my friends and my family know like I was leaving before I just put it on social media for them to find out that way. Now that everybody knows I'm going to Georgetown University, I can really talk freely about my reaction. And so like I mentioned in the episode that I talked about this on, I was at the gym when I got the email, and I was very, very nervous because there was a lot riding on this. One, it was the ticket for me to get into the career that I wanted to get into the types of jobs that I wanted to get into, because where I want to work in the future is in DC. And so there was a lot riding on this. And not only that, but it was the opportunity for me to finally leave. I had never wanted to stay here. I never wanted to be in New England. I never wanted to be this close to home at all. There was so much anxiety going on in my body, and it took forever for me to sign in because I know y'all know I'm not remembering my password. I just save it on my computer and call it a day. I press a little tap thing. I have a MacBook, and we call it a day, and I get signed in. So I had to reset my password, whatever. And then I open it, and I call my friends, and I tell them I got in, and I wasn't expecting to cry, and I just started crying and like bawling and just like, oh my God. And my friends were just like, why are you like crying? You should be super excited. And it was happy tears. I wasn't sad at all. I wasn't sad about leaving. I wasn't sad about anything. I was really just relieved. When you have a passion really on your heart, or when you just know that where you're at is not good for you, and there's this opportunity to leave, there's so much riding on that opportunity. And it's not that if that didn't work out, I could have found another way. Like I definitely could have, but this was the way that I, one, really wanted, and two, this was like in my eyes, the easiest way to get there, because I knew that I was going to be going to school. Like that was set in stone if I accepted this opportunity. And it was really just a matter of I can finally breathe. Like, I know I'm not staying here, I'm not stuck here forever. I know that I'm finally going to be able to pursue the career that I want to pursue long term. It's still going to take me a little bit more time before I get the types of jobs that I want to get, and I'm okay with that. But I'm finally getting my foot in the door, and for once it finally felt like my life is going in the right direction. I grew up with a lot of trauma, and I grew up with a lot of heaviness, and I grew up very, very, very quickly as a child because of those experiences. And so leaving Massachusetts and Connecticut is such a weight off of my shoulders because there's so much pain here, and I think it's just time for me to go. And I'm not saying that, me leaving is going to solve all of my problems. Like, I'm not expecting that to be the case, but what I will say is that it'll definitely make it a lot easier. I find that, like, when we are struggling with something, like, let's say for example, I had a really bad friend, right? But I continue to stay in that friendship and expect my life to remain peaceful. If I have this bad friend around me, how can my life be peaceful if I continue to allow them to have access to my life? If they're still in such proximity to me and my life, it's not possible. That's how I feel about living in this area. It's just like there's so much heaviness here, and only so much healing can be done when you're in the place that has caused you trauma, when you're still there. So leaving and like saying goodbye to Massachusetts and Connecticut is really exciting for me because I can finally put some of that stuff to bed. I can finally just say, like, that's behind me, that's in the past, and really just look at my life with a different lens and look at it for the first time with a blank canvas. I feel like living so close to home, only 30 minutes away from where I grew up, I couldn't really start fresh. I couldn't really look at life with a blank canvas because my life is literally 30 minutes away. I could have easily ran into somebody that I went to high school with here in Massachusetts or whatever. My family comes out here to, go to the casinos and to hang out and stuff. So it's not really like I could start fresh, where now it's like I'm going to be hours away, like almost 7 hours away. I'm not running into anybody that I went to high school with. I'm not running into anybody that I went to college with, most likely. I'm definitely not running into any family going to DC, and I'm really excited about that. Not to put my family on blast or anything, we just don't have like the closest relationship, and I didn't really grow up in the warmest of households like I talked about, with getting kicked out of my home to go to college and stuff. We didn't really have the best relationship, and things are getting better, but I feel like the reason things are getting better now is because when I left, I only came back for one summer, and after that, that was it. Like, I just kind of like stood my ground and said, like, I'm not coming back despite the fact that I don't have anywhere to lay my head at right now. I had to figure that out. Fine. But really dedicating myself to the fact that, like, I'm serious about getting this degree. I'm serious about getting a higher education and not living in poverty for the rest of my life. I'm serious about that, and actually graduating early despite everything that I've been through, because it's not like my family didn't know. I think they really respect me more for that, and so our relationship gets a little bit better. And I'm an adult. I'm not a kid anymore. I don't live at home with y'all. Y'all don't pay my bills or anything like that. And so you really have to respect the grind, because I did this without you. And I'm so grateful for the people that have helped me along the way. But a lot of the weight is on the person whose life it is. Like, I couldn't have done this if I didn't want to, regardless of whether or not I have people helping me. But I'm not taking that help for granted at all. I'm just simply saying that that distance between me and my family and me putting in the work to get to where I want to be without them has really shown that I'm serious about this. And there's a mutual respect now of, like, I'm going to do the things that I want to do. I'm going to live the life that I want to live. You can be a part of it or not, but regardless, like, that's not going to stop me. And, I could do a whole other episode on just getting kicked out of college, and I might, and just talking about that and the progression with my family's relationship. But all in all, I'm just really excited about moving and just starting fresh, not really having any friends or any family with me. I mean, I am sad about the friends. Let me not say that. I want to start fresh. I really want to have that experience of isolation for a short period of time to understand, like, who is Sabrina really without extra noise? Who is Sabrina without family judgments or without friends' input or without this or without that? Who is Sabrina at her core. I feel like I have a really good idea, but that will really be put to the test when I finally move away from everything that I've known so far and just start living life on my own, by myself, in a different place. So since I'm moving, there's a whole whirlwind of things that I want to focus on, and I want to have like a completely different life compared to the life that I have here in New England, because it's not really like the funnest life. It's not really the best life that I could possibly be living for somebody who's in their early 20s. And I just want to start living life to the fullest and have a fulfilled life in general. And so I have some goals for moving, and I highly suggest that if you're considering moving, I highly suggest that you come up with a list of goals of what your life is going to look like once you move, and put that stuff into action once you finally get there. So I have 3 top goals for when I go to DC. And the first one is including hobbies into my life. Where I currently live, it's very hard to include the hobbies that I want to have into my life because it's either way, way too expensive, or they just don't have what I want to have here, not within close proximity to me. And so I really want to have hobbies. I did already secure an apartment, like I mentioned, so I'm super excited about that. So now that I know where I'm going to be laying my head at, I also can start figuring out what's within close proximity to me. So I've made a list, a pretty long list, and I've divided it into like activities and attraction, food, what's close to Georgetown, what's close to me, and just like having those things like already lined up so that when I get there, I already know what I want to do. I already know like what's close to me, and I have an idea of what things I'm going to be able to commit to and whatever. And so there are 3 hobbies that I really want to include into my life because I just really find them interesting. And the first one is volleyball. I didn't play in high school or anything like that. I played after I left college just once before on like went on like a 7-day cruise last year, and I pretty much played volleyball every single day, and I fucking loved it, and I was pretty good at it in my opinion for somebody who's never played. So I really want to start playing. I want to keep physical activity in my life. I want to keep sports in my life. I like playing on a team. I like being competitive. And so I've already signed up for the club sport with Georgetown, which I'm super excited about. I didn't even know like that was still going to be a possibility for me. So that's pretty cool. The next thing is boxing. I've been wanting to do boxing for a very, 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 very long time. And boxing is expensive, okay? Boxing is not for the weak. Boxing is not for the weak of pockets either. So Georgetown also has a boxing club, which I'm super excited about. And I found a place that is close to where I live, close-ish, not too far, close to where I live, and it's affordable. So I'm super excited about that. And if you don't look up like things to do in your area or things to do when you're going to travel somewhere on TikTok, I highly recommend. TikTok is a new search engine in my opinion with videos strictly. So if I want to find something cool to do, I always go to TikTok first because I can see the videos of people actually doing it and see what it looks like and decide whether or not that's worth my money and my time. The last thing I want to try doing while I'm out in DC, I'm kind of hesitant to say because I know some of my students are watching, but I want to start doing like pole dancing, like the exercise class though. I'm not going to be a stripper and none of that stuff, but I just find it really cool. And I used to dance as a kid, and dance is also expensive, so I couldn't afford to keep doing it for a long time, but I really want to incorporate some type of like dance into my life. And I think that it's really cool, doing the tricks and whatever. It keeps you in shape. Listen, the people who are out here doing pole dancing, they are fit. I want to be fit. I want to be fit too. So I really want to incorporate those 3 things. I've already found places for me to be able to do that, whether that's free, whether that's through a community center, whether that's through a business or whatever. And I'm really trying to promote all the Black businesses that there are in DC. I'm super, super excited about that too. That is another thing that I'm really excited about. I can go to a lot of Black owned places and really see what that's about. We don't really have a lot of Black owned businesses in my area, that at least not that I know of. The next thing that I want to work on while I'm in DC is my confidence. In all honesty, I struggle with that a lot with this podcast, with my appearance, with a bunch of different things. And I feel like that's normal. Everybody has insecurities and things like that, but I don't want my confidence to be something that cripples me in life. I don't want to keep feeling like I can't do certain things, or that it takes me such a long time to finally do the things that I want to do because of my lack of confidence. And I'm just going to be honest about that. I feel like a lot of times people get ridiculed for saying that they have these insecurities that make them, really delay them. But in all honesty, like it's real. Everybody has an insecurity. So my confidence is definitely something that I want to work on. Until I find my friends, I'm going to be spending a lot of time alone in DC, and I want to embrace that. I want to enjoy all of that time because it'll really allow me to understand who I am, really understand who I want to be, what type of life do I want to have, and so on and so forth, and just really being comfortable and confident with the fact that like I could roll on my own. And I'm not saying that I can't, but I'm worried that moving to a new place where I know literally nobody, well, I know two people. I know two people that I'll be able to talk to, but I don't know anybody around my age. I don't know anybody that looks like me just yet that I'm close with. I'm a little worried that not having any friends will make me feel very alone, very isolated, and it'll start to make me feel less confident in myself. Or making friends takes a long time. I'm a little worried about that too. And so I'm thinking about that in advance, thinking about that before I even move, before I even set foot into DC, because I just want to be sure that I have the smoothest transition as possible. And of course, there's going to be hiccups in the road. There's going to be ups and downs and stuff like that. And I'm okay with that. I'm here for that. But I just want to make sure that me and like my process in making friends and the time that it takes doesn't affect my confidence in any way, shape, or form. I want to completely be myself. And that's the other thing that I want to work on too, is just being myself entirely. I feel like I do a lot of masking, or I'm like different people in different spaces, which makes sense, but sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to really be yourself in certain spaces, especially growing up the way that I grew up. I feel like I could never be myself, and so I have this huge insecurity of like, if I show my true self to people, what does that mean, or what does that look like? And so I really want to get over that when I move, because I don't want to spend my whole life feeling like I have to hide certain parts of myself or not be myself entirely. And the last thing that I want to work on while I'm in DC is maintaining a healthy lifestyle. I've been working on a workout routine for a little bit of time. I created my own workout plan. I pretty much create all my workout plans. I've been on some sort of like meal prep where I try to eat as clean as I can. Sometimes I still be enjoying soul food or whatever the case may be, a pizza and some wings, but I've been trying to eat a lot better. And I've also been trying to work on gratitude. The last episode that I released talks about gratitude and the importance of it. And I've really been feeling at peace with my life. I've been feeling very light and very free, knowing that I'm moving and knowing that there's a lot to be grateful for just in general, on top of the fact that I'm getting this opportunity to go live somewhere else and to go to school and to do these things that I want to do. And so I want to continue that when I get there. I don't want it to be like, okay, now that I'm finally where I want to be and now that I'm doing the things that I want to do, I can slack off on the gratitude, or I could slack off on the working out, I could slack off on whatever. Like, no, we have to keep this going because it's been good for me this far, and it'll take me even further now that I'm in the place that I want to be, and now that I'm getting so close to the life that I want to have too. All right, let's talk about advice for people who want to move, whether that's away from where you live or where your family lives, like whether that's hours away or, an hour away, whatever the case may be. If you're looking to move from where you're currently at, I have a little bit of advice for you. And I want you to think about a couple of things. And the first thing is, think about what's missing from where you currently live. Do you feel like where you currently live isn't representative of who you are? Like there's not a lot of people that look like you? Do you feel like there's not a lot of things for you to do because of your age range? Is that something that's missing from your life? What is missing? What do you want in the next place that you go to? Next thing is, think about, what are your non-negotiables? What are things that you know you're not putting up with if you move? My biggest non-negotiable was snow. I don't want to be around snow. Like, I don't want to be in a place where there's heavy snow like there is in New England. And so I'll never go to Canada ever because I don't want to deal with that. Like, that's for an example. And DC does have snow, but it's not as bad as it is up here. And when I was starting to figure out where I wanted to move to throughout this school year, so starting back in like September of last year, Texas was on the list. And it was kind of shaky because the politics is really weird, really, really weird. But it had one of my non-negotiables, which was no snow. But I did some more research in the politics, and they had passed a law around the time that I was doing my research, and I ultimately decided like, nah, I'm all set. That's a non-negotiable for me. Like these weird ass laws, I can't do that. I can't put up with that. So think about what your non-negotiables are. Next thing is to create a timeline. If you're young, because I know I have some people who are a little bit on the younger side who listen to the podcast, this is going to take some time for you. But that works to your advantage because let's say you're 16 right now and you want to move out by the time you're 18 and you have a job. You can start to figure out what do you need to do in terms of budgeting and saving your money and figuring out like where can you go. If you have the ability to travel, whether it's with your family or with some friends or whatever, you might be able to see the places that you want to go to, doing your research, really figuring out like what is it that you want, what places are out there in the world. You don't even have to stay in the States. I want to live outside of the U.S. for a little bit of time at some point in my life. It's getting strange out here. It's getting weird, and I don't know if I can keep doing this anymore. So take the time to think about that if you're younger. If you are completely independent, you don't live with your parents, you don't rely on anybody else. Maybe you have a partner, but they also want to move. That's fine too. You can really start just coming up with your game plan and figuring out what your timeline is. Get a budget started. Start doing your research on the places that you want to go to. Think about like what is it going to take for you to get a job? Like how long does it typically take for people to get a job if you don't work remote? Working remote is such a game changer. I can't wait to find my next job. It will be remote. Very, very few jobs that I'm applying to are in person, and I really don't want that, but if it's a interesting enough opportunity, I'll take it. But yeah, think about what is it going to look like for you to get a job. Is the area that you're at walkable? Is it close to things? Or if you want to be a little bit further away, do you have the capacity to do that? Are you going to have to sell your car? Are you going to be able to drive to your new place? Is it diverse if that's something that you're looking for? Just really starting to think about all these questions that you may not have thought about. What's the healthcare looking like out there? What's the laws looking like out there? Keep that in mind, especially if you look anything like me. Be very, very cautious about where you move to without looking at the laws or looking at like the population, or just keeping that in mind. You know what I mean. So think about that, and also think about, does this place have the core things that you want? With me moving to DC, I wasn't closed off to it. It wasn't at the top of my list because I didn't really know too much about it. I had went to visit one time last year to go and see if it was a place that I wanted to live. But I feel like I don't really get the full experience because I didn't go with anybody around my age. I didn't see or like hang out with anybody around my age. But what I will say is that when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to live, I knew that I wanted to pursue content creation full time. And I knew that the opportunities weren't where I live. And I'm grateful for that because I didn't want to stay here anyway. But think about that. Are the opportunities that you want at this next place that you're going to, is it going to be possible for you to have that career that you want in this area? If you want to be an aerospace engineer and you live in Alaska, is that possible? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible, but if it is, great. And if it's not, and even though you want to live there, you might want to have to cross that off your list for a while, because if this is what you want to do, if that's what you do for work already and you love what you do, you shouldn't be moving to a place that doesn't offer what you want to do for work. So think about all of that, and just know that if you are not somebody who has the privilege and the funds to move right away, which a lot of people don't, know that it is okay to wait. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy saving. Enjoy doing the research. Enjoy planning everything out. Enjoy all of it that you possibly can. And I'm not going to sit up here in front and pretend like, waiting is easy. Depending on your circumstances, it can get really tough. It can get to the point where it's just like, I just want to leave and leave today. But just really be okay with the fact that it's going to take you some time, and really sit with the fact that like the longer it takes you, the more you'll be grateful for when you finally go. If there's obstacles in your way that prevent you from moving in the time frame that you want to, understand that you're going to be grateful for the day that you finally move. Am I somebody who's big balling as I get ready to do this move? No, I'm not. But you know what? God has made a way for me. And that is the other thing too. Like, God made sure that I found a place to lay my head at that's affordable for me, and that I'll be able to make something shake so that I can afford it. All this extra stuff, have that in mind too. If you're somebody who has any type of faith, even if you put your faith in the universe, you put your faith in God, Allah, whatever it is that you put your faith in that's positive, have faith in that. Have faith in the fact that there's a plan for your life, and you moving, if that's something that you're really feeling called to do, it's going to happen for you, and it's going to take some time. I know there were a lot of times where I was just so frustrated with living here, with being in such close proximity to some people that I don't want to be in close proximity to, and like being in close proximity to some of the pain that I'm really trying to work on overcoming. And so all I can really say is that there were some really tough times which is like I want to move, and I cried a lot, and I cried some seriously painful cries because I just really wanted to be gone. But I'm at a point where it's like I don't even have the words for God to be thankful for the fact that I'm finally at a point where I'm leaving, and it still feels so surreal because I haven't officially moved yet. I'm packing my stuff and I'm getting rid of things and I'm selling stuff. If you're in the Massachusetts or Connecticut area, you know me, I got some stuff that I need to sell. Hit your girl up. But anyway, it just feels so surreal, but I'm at a point where it's just like looking back at it now, looking at all the things that I went through, all the pain that I had been through, all the crying and all the things that it took for me to finally get to this point. I'm super grateful, and I don't want to take this opportunity for granted. I don't want to taint my experience in any way, shape, or form. And I also want to point out that for anybody who is moving because they're really trying to, get away from a toxic family, or they're trying to get away from pain and wherever it is that they're currently living, I want you to understand that moving doesn't solve all your problems. You still should be going to therapy if you're not already going. You should still be journaling. You should still be working on yourself and being honest with yourself. Just because you move doesn't mean that your problems are going to stay where you left. That's not true. You're going to bring your problems with you wherever you go until you decide that it's finally time to release them from your spirit, number one. And I think the other thing, too, to understand is that you can start setting boundaries with the things that you want to leave behind today. You don't need to wait until you cross state lines to finally start taking charge of those types of things. And in some cases, depending on how old you are, what your situation is, it's going to be a bit more challenging. But start setting some of those boundaries. If you feel like you have a toxic family and there are certain things that you don't want to deal with, you can set those boundaries. And you don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to start problems. There doesn't have to be confrontation. All you can simply say is like, hey, I don't like that you do X, Y, and Z. Please stop doing that. Have some respect for me as I have respect for you. Whatever works for you, start setting those boundaries. Because in all honesty, like, if you don't start setting those boundaries before you cross state lines, and you just assume that crossing state lines is going to help you, there are going to be people in the next state that try you too. And you need to have those boundaries in place long before you get there so that you can spot it, for one, and tell them, like, nah, I'm not playing that game. You can either respect my boundary or we don't have to chill. And it's straight like that. I think the last thing I want to say too about people who are moving, especially if you have a toxic family or if you have a lot of pain of where you're from, is just that know that your toxic family and your pain doesn't define you. That doesn't make you who you are. It builds character, yes, but you don't have to let that stuff define you for the rest of your life. It doesn't have to weigh on your spirit for the rest of your life. You can really have the life that you want to have. You can really be the person that you want to be if you give yourself the space to let go and move on from things. And trust me when I say that is a lot easier said than done. I completely understand that. But what I will say, though, is that it's hard work. It is hard work to get to where you want to be. It is hard work to let pain go, to let toxic family go, to start setting boundaries. It really is hard work, but you have to decide what type of hard you want to deal with. Do you want to deal with the hard of having to have a toxic family around, having negativity around you, having a mental health that's in shambles? Or do you want to deal with the hard that is temporary of like, I'm going to set these boundaries and learn how to be uncomfortable with this because long term, it'll set me up for the relationships that I want to have. It'll set me up to be the person that I want to be. You have to make the decision for yourself. But again, your toxic family and your pain does not define you. And you can decide whether or not you use that pain to better yourself and to better others, or if you decide to let that take you down. But ultimately, that's your decision. All right, y'all. We are at the point where we've reached the affirmation for this week's episode. And I am super excited about this one because I firmly believe that if it's not apparent to you yet, it's still true. And so the affirmation for this week is, my dream life is loading. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat it 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. So, my dream life is loading. My dream life is loading. One more time. My dream life is loading. All right, y'all. That is all I have for you today. Let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. If you are in the process of moving, if you want to move, if you're considering it now that you've heard this episode, let me know what your thoughts are. Where are some places in the world that you want to move to? Especially if it's outside of the U.S., I definitely want to hear it because I want to live outside of the U.S. for a little bit of time, and I want some recommendations, especially some Black-friendly recommendations. Let's just be real with it. But let me know what your thoughts are. Did you learn something new? Drop it in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, you can go ahead and follow us on Instagram at the HSL Pod, and same thing with TikTok, and you can interact with us on there. I just want to take a moment to really say thank you to the people who are listening on a consistent basis and really being patient with me. Also, keep in mind that I'm in the process of moving, so things might be a little bit slow. That's why you see me posting on some weird days. I also want to spend as much time with my family and friends before I say goodbye to them. Within the next month, I'll be going on a family vacation, and so I'm hoping that I'll already have a video recorded by the time I go, which I should, but if not, I'm going to try to record while I'm there. We'll see how that goes. I've never recorded in front of my family. I don't even think a lot of them know that I have a podcast, so we'll see what that's about. But anyways, that's all I have for you this week. So until then, I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye.